you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me.
Oh,
Like, we're not set up to do well. Yeah, half the homeless population spend time in foster care. I think less than 1% of us graduate college. Like, we're not set up to do well.
I want you to take me back to the earliest defining moment for you.
Oh, yeah.
Where was that big shift where you started to say, oh, this is
Could be different.
This is going to be different.
I think by the time I was 14, I'd been given away at 3 years old to foster care. I endured a lot of crazy in that situation. My outside everyday life, I was in a lot of fights. A lot of them didn't know I was a foster kid. I didn't want them to know, right? So there wasn't that kind of anger. But what it was I had a helplessness. Like I felt like I had no control. I felt like the world was depicting my left and right. And I got adopted by an all-white family, very poor. And so I couldn't do very much. But at 14, I finally had a paper route and I was like making money. And I paid for my very first year of football. And I go and do it and I go, I'm not good. And so I kind of checked out. I was sleeping in class, becoming a statistic, which if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. Like, we're not set up to do well. Yeah, half the homeless population spend time in foster care. I think less than 1% of us graduate college. Like, we're not set up to do well. So because I was a foster kid, which I had no control over, I didn't like, I didn't plan that, right? I go, but that's gonna adapt my whole life. That's why I'm this way. And it was this weird, like, I felt for the first time, like an overwhelming sense of frustrating helplessness. And when you have a lack of agency, it feels hopeless and helpless. And like, why even try?
Today's guest is Anthony Trucks, and Anthony has a very interesting story that he shares about how he had went through the foster care system and how that experience not only shaped him into who he is today, but it really set the tone for the way that he now parents his children and the things that he wants to give them that he wasn't given back when he was a child. There's so much more insight beyond just that conversation, and I'm so very excited for you all to listen. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Anthony Trucks.
What's up, man?
To Beyond the Cover.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome, man. I already know it is because I didn't want to do too much homework coming into this experience, but I always like to just get a little bit of a backstory on the individual that it is that I'll be having a conversation with. And there's some more commonalities that I will uncover than I think maybe we would, first believe there to be.
Yeah.
But I also know, just having a conversation with you, that you look past just face value. You see what's beyond the superficial.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think will not only lead to a great conversation, but is going to have us really diving deep today. So
cool.
On the cover,
yeah,
you are definitely an individual that has found success in many different realms. And so I like to just give a little bit of backstory as to what you've done, knowing that that's not who you are, but that's some of the things that you've done. So, you played 3 years in the league, NFL, with the Bucks, I guess technically now they're the Commanders.
Yeah, stupid name.
Yeah. So we switched the name, and then the Steelers as well.
Yeah.
So you were quite the athlete. You then took that athletic talent and made an appearance 3 times on American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
Did you fare okay?
I'm the first former NFL athlete to hit a buzzer.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know until I got through.
Still to this day?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, most guys don't get past, I guess, 2 obstacles. I almost fell on the rope the first one.
Okay.
And then I got through it all. The producer was like, how did you do that? I'm like, oh.
Yeah. You might have had a little bit of athletic ability.
A little bit. I prepped for I did 7 hours of training in advance. It was wild. I don't know how I did it.
How do you prep for that? Because the courses are so extreme. So did you have, nowadays they have them. They have actual studios.
Well, they do.
You can go to courses. There's one apparently here that someone told me, train for it, because I do my thing on TV. And
they had one near us where I was at, but the thing was, it's never the same. It's always, there was a great place called Apex Movement, but on the show itself, it's all new stuff, and you don't get to test it beforehand.
Okay.
They walk you through, point at it, and go, "This is how you do it. Don't do that." Or I go back in the holding area, just some concrete slab of a parking lot somewhere. You just wait.
And how long do you wait?
Oh man, I got there at 2:00 in the afternoon. Didn't go until 3 a.m.
Do they tell you do they give you hey, you're 30 minutes out, or do they just come in and say you're up?
Because there's weird breaks, there's a midnight break for their lunch, the producers, it's lunch on TV. But no, because it all depends on how far somebody goes, how much crowd work they have to do. Because what you hear is not the crowd in real time. It's pretty dead silent at 3 a.m, right? You may jump, you might get a clap or two, but they got all right, everybody, when the drone comes by this time, go, So they're doing all the back and forth. But yeah, it's just hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
You get there for a couple hours to go do a couple video shoots, maybe some pictures, and then you sit for 10 straight hours.
Oh man.
It's wild.
Yeah. And then it's they go, all right, you're up. And you're you got to slap your face or do some jumping jacks
3 a.m.
real quick at 3. Yeah. And it's funny because reality TV in general, they have the weirdest filming hours.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was on TV, we'd film from 8 p.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah.
next day.
That's crazy.
And you know, that it's like people go, "Oh, he looks so tired." Yeah, I am.
Yeah, dead
Or
tired.
why did he do that? It's like, well, because I was probably sleep deprived.
Yeah,
you know?
100%, man.
So, and to
Yeah.
have to do something athletic such as what you did, I mean, gosh, even more challenging. It's like, okay, now I got to show up. I could imagine trying to play a football game, you know, at 3
Half
in the
asleep.
morning.
Yeah, but the good thing is you only got to muster it up for like 2 or 3 minutes. And if you're smart, you just sit and chill. You watch everybody. You're not running around and doing a whole bunch of stuff. But when you get to be about maybe 20 out, you start moving around. When you're about to be 10 out, you start kind of getting your hands warmed up and everything. But that 10, it could easily take it, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours for 10 people to go.
Yeah.
But if they're going pretty quick, you might have 3 people fall in a row. And now it's chopped. You're up in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So you just got to play it by ear.
You got to be ready on a moment's notice.
That's it.
Which I would say that you still probably live by that standard.
Yeah.
Always ready to go.
That's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, again, I have to imagine was instilled in you a bit with football. It's like, you know, when your number's called,
you go.
You go.
You don't question it. It helps me. Yeah, it helps me like a father in the family too, because my wife, she'll freak out, and the whole like slowing down thing happens to me. So everything goes fast, and I kind of I can breathe into it, because in football you had to do that.
Yeah.
And so for me, when things go crazy, I'm actually pretty good in those situations. Or you can all of a sudden make a change. Like I speak for a living, and so all the things like lights go down or someone has to change something real quick, and like they're freaking out, and I have to like calm them and be like, I got this. We're gonna be okay. Like in seeing them melt, knowing that it's under control is good, but. Yeah, that was adapted from football for sure.
So yeah, okay, you just touched on it right there, but how do you calm people in a scenario where like you're not in your environment, you're in their environment, things are going off the rails. Oh, now we just lost audio, we lost lighting, and you, the stranger, the new individual in that environment, is able to be at peace. How do you go about that? What do you tell yourself? I mean, at this point, I'm assuming it's probably subconscious.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the point where it wasn't. You know, how do you get there? Because someone that's listening right now says, "How do I maintain my cool when I'm supposed to go speak in front of this many people, and all of a sudden this occurs, and I'm in a place of unknown?"
Yeah.
So how do you maintain that cool?
Well, I think for me, what it looks like, first, how does it look? It looks in the beginning as though I have to, like my nonverbals are a big piece of it. So, I mean, I've literally been on stage and all of a sudden lights go down. You could hear my mic, so lights go down. So I make like little jokes like, remember when we guys were in elementary school and lights would go off and you want to kiss the girl next? Like this weird stuff, you know? But like it's jokes, ha, 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 right? And it comes back on. I go, hey, I'm going to smile. Can you guys see me? Like you just do dumb stuff to play with it.
Yeah.
And then if it's like, I've had audio go out and I just yell across the room, can you hear me? You just play little jokes, but you're nonverbals. And so they go, if this person's under control, we're good, right?
Yeah.
Or if somebody like is missing and running around. I've actually at one point they couldn't find the MC at a company who it was an executive. He disappeared somewhere and I was going on like it's countdown and they're introducing somebody else and I got to go up. I had to like, I don't know where he's at. I go, I got it. Give me the mic. And I introduced myself in a different voice and then shot up on stage like, hey, you know? And so, but like, those are the kind of things that go, thank you so much. Like you handled it. And you ask how you do that. It's not trying to establish like the brakes because you're uncomfortable. I always look at life as going, there's this situation I'm in front of right now is supposed to be happening. Don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Like it's the best way I can explain it. So if that happened, like, all right, I'm given this opportunity to like to see what I can do with it. And so I lean into it.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it's not the end of the world, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think my coaches, when I played football, we're big on this. Like if the moment comes up, like you're prepared, you're here, just lean into the moment, give everything you can. Because we call them defining moments. My coach used to call them defining moments. I actually have a paper I wrote in this. I didn't realize I'd written this whole document. And then my coach recently shared it with me because I visited him when I went to Oregon to see some guys, but it was about defining moments. Yeah. And the defining moments are given to us every day in life. You know, some are big, some are small, but they're to see who you are. Yeah. And so in the defining moments, it's not saying you're gonna be prepared for them, but how do you show up? Like for me, I played linebacker. If it's fourth quarter and it's, 4th and 3 and I'm an outside linebacker and it's a toss, that's mine. I got to make this tackle. I can't rely upon maybe my cleat slip and it's okay. Or maybe, I turn and stumble. Like I make the tackle or I don't make the tackle. It's going to define who I am. Yeah. And I would much rather have this great moment and go with all against me. I figured it out, than have to make an excuse and go, but it was this in my cleats and I couldn't, I don't want to make excuses. So I just lean in and they go, the moment will define you, not the excuse. Yeah. And so for me, I've always looked at these situations pop up and I lean into them like quick. Like I don't second guess. I don't even put the thought of like, what if it goes wrong? Because you'll start drifting and veering towards it. Yeah. And so in time, I got real comfortable in it. And in fact, now I have joy when they pop up. Because I go, oh, I'm about to have a moment to make myself look dope.
Yeah.
Because I can handle it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I actually invite the weirdness, the crazy, and like the things that most people would freak out in, because it lets me position myself as a stronger character human, and it works.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're describing is embracing the unknown.
100%.
Right. So a lot of people they live in this place of comfort. They work the same job for 10, 15 years, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, how are you consistently growing in what it is that you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you shift the narrative. Ultimately, we have the ability to choose our perspectives in life. I can take any scenario and find worst case scenario and best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And which one ultimately plays out, it's going to likely be dependent upon, the believer of whatever mindset they have.
The story I write.
Yeah. So what story am I writing? Exactly. And I think you'd attest to this, but football, there's a lot of pressure. That's the beauty of it, though, is that you have national television, you have cameras flying overhead, you have 90,000 people in the stands, and it might as well be life or death with some of the way that the fans react. I mean, they'll go into work the next day and be screaming and talk about how terrible so and so is, and they'll send you these nasty messages.
Like the guy recently from the Browns was kind of baiting the crowd, and then went ahead and knocked the ball up in the air, and the Commanders actually won the game.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he was while the play is going, he's turning around, he's talking to him, and he's doing all this stuff.
He's the cause of it going downhill.
And then he touched the ball, and then they score and the game's over. And so I'm sure that again that will likely be a defining moment for him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I have to imagine. And I love that you brought up defining moments, because I want you to take me there. I'm sure there were many in your life, but I want you to take me back to the earliest defining moment for you.
Oh yeah.
Because take what was occurring at that time in your life. Where was that big shift?
Yeah.
Where you started to say, "Oh, wow, this is
can be different.
This is going to be different."
Yeah, it wasn't a big shift. I will say this: I found in life that if I go back even as far as this, that there's been a consistent truth, which is I never go big; I go small in a big way.
Okay,
it's never been a shoot for big, like shoot for the stars. I found that if I can go small, bigger than you, I'll get bigger than you.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And so if I go back to the beginning, like the very first one, this is 14 years old, 15 years old. You got to think, by the time I was 14, I'd been given away at 3 years old to foster care. I endured a lot of crazy in that situation, like starving, beating, like weird stuff. And I got adopted by an all-white family, very poor. And so I couldn't do very much. But at 14, I finally had a paper route, and I was like making money. And I paid for my very first year of football that I wasn't allowed to play because of my biological mom. So I didn't play football until I was 14. And so I go out there, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm gonna go out here and be a monster. Because on the recess, like at elementary school, I'm out here mossing kids. Back in the day, it was moss. I'm out here mossing kids, right? And then they put a helmet and shoulder pads on me, and I am trash. Like, it was horrible, dude. Like, I'm like, I couldn't see out of this thing.
Yeah, I remember
like,
that. Yeah.
What was that? It felt like that one Django scene. Like, I can't see out of this thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the first time you throw it on, you think, how am I supposed to play ball? Now my vision goes from here to
here.
here.
Anything. It's crazy. Yeah. And so I go out there, and I'm bad. And so now you have this situation where a lot of us have faced this moment of, I'm excited about something and I'm trying this thing out, and then I go and do it and I go, I'm not good. And I'm met with the reality of either I have to choose to lean in or make a really good excuse to lean out. Yeah. And so I did the latter. I made a good excuse, which is I'm the foster kid. My adoptive mom's been diagnosed with MS. Like, the family's focused on mom. I'm not supposed to be good in life. Like, that's not my lot, Okay. And I played football one more year. My freshman year of high school was still garbage. And I go, man, it sucks. This thing I wanted to do, and I thought I could have the ability to do, skill set wise. I had the physical nature. I was an athlete, to an extent, but it wasn't in the cards. And so I kind of checked out. I was sleeping in class, becoming a statistic, which if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. Oh, like, we're not set up to do well. Yeah, half the homeless population spend time in foster care. I think less than 1% of us graduate college. Like, we're not set up to do well. And so I'm headed to just be a statistic. I'm breaking into cars at night with dumb, kid stuff and getting in trouble, getting arrested, like dumb things. And I found myself in a situation where I'm in a class, Mr. Howell's English class. There's these two girls in a love seat sitting next to me. I'm like halfway passed out. Got like a jacket over my head. I'm eating a bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I got a park on my head, and I'm out. But I hear this girl say something out loud, dude. And this was like I didn't realize how powerful of a moment it was until someone pointed it out to me. But this girl says to the other girl, no idea I'm listening. She says, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And at face value, it's like, all right, it's a simple statement. But it was very interesting because I got to hear out loud my inner voice that was telling me why I should play small.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it was a beautiful gift of like, and the thing
It was validating.
it was,
in
it
that
was,
moment.
it was validating in a way that made me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, that's a horrible excuse to give up. Like, so because I was a foster kid, which I had no control over, I didn't like, I didn't plan that, right? I go, but that's going to adapt my whole life. That's why I'm this way. And it was this weird, like I felt for the first time, like an overwhelming sense of frustrating helplessness, which we all feel at some point in time. At some point, we all feel like I have no control over this. And when you have a lack of agency, it feels hopeless and helpless and like, why even try? And I remember going home that day and I had this weird moment of like, I want to be great. Like an overwhelming, like, and I looked myself in the pupils and in the mirror, like a weird little guy. And I go, I'm gonna be great. Like I said, you're gonna be great, Anthony. Yeah. But like at 15, I was like, you're gonna be great. You know, like your little, I swear, man. Yeah. And so I had this lock in and I was like, I'm gonna be great at this thing that I didn't have the ability to do. But I'm like, what do the greatest football players do? So I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. You got Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. These amazing players. So I go, what do they do? And I watch. They're lifting weights, running routes, doing these things. I'm like, I don't do that. And every one of us who is shown what it takes to get what we want, we don't do that. Yeah. And when you don't do it, you go, I can't do it. Right. I'm going to look stupid. Someone's going to judge me. And it did. Yeah. Like I'm already in my head going, I don't do this. Yeah. Yeah. My teammates are going, Trucks, get out of the weight room, bro. You're skinny. What are you doing? Hey, Butterfingers, get off the field, Yeah. So you have the external voice matching the internal voice. And it's completely like, it drains your soul of energy. Yeah. But I knew this. If I don't do these things, I don't get that thing. Yeah. So I go, but if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it literally as best I can. Like I'm going to give 100% effort to the weights, to the running a route, to the catching football, everything. So I started doing it. Mm-hmm. Month 1 goes by. This is where I go the small in a big way. Yeah. Month 1 goes by. Trucks, why are you still out there? Come on, man. You're embarrassing yourself, And I'm going, yeah, I know, but I keep showing up. And every day, just, I had to catch a ball in my back 500 times a day. I'd work out 3 days a week. I would run routes 3 days a week. I would do speed work 4 times a week just to go keep running. I just want to do things. Yeah. I wasn't even doing the right stuff. I guarantee I was out there just probably hurting myself, borderline. Yeah. But I would do it. And then second month goes by. Trucks, dude, come on. Like, cut it out, dude. And I go, I know, yeah, but I still do it. Third month, this guy's still doing it. Fourth month, okay, all right. Fifth month, hey, Trucks, you seriously, like, I see you, like, you're getting better. 6th month, can I get a workout with you? By 7th month, I was an animal, dude. And so what it was, I had to retrain other people and me on who I was. Yeah. And it doesn't happen through what you wish, what you think. It happens in small drips of, I call it dark work. And here's what it was. I showed up to the football field the very next year, my sophomore year of high school. And I had this guttural internal sense when the ball's in the air, it is my football now. If you have the football, you're going down. If I have the ball, I'm scoring a touchdown. It was this thing that, where to me, it was like, you didn't work how I worked. You didn't subject yourself to it. So the mentality inside was, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. Mm-hmm. It was an anchored sense of like, no, you haven't done what it takes to beat me. You don't deserve this right now. Yeah. I had this dog in me. And that dog went in the field, bro. He competed differently. He played differently, different skill. I don't even think that, to be honest, I didn't develop much more skill. I just developed more of a desire of like, I'm going to catch the football. Yeah. I'm going to, and it was not a second guess. And so it was built. Now I'm saying something right now that people go, I didn't play football. I didn't do that. It's okay. All I did was subject myself to something in the direction of what I dreamed of, past the difficulty. Yeah. And when you do that, when you get to the moments that are defining moments, you show up differently. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have to have gone through football to get it. You could have done piano, ballet. You could have been a Lego master for all I care, right? Yeah, yeah. But at some point, you had to do something that you pushed past. And when you do that, you show up differently for your dream. Yeah. You develop what I call a dominator's identity, which means to govern and control. And that is a different gift that only you can give to yourself. I can't loan it to you. You can't buy it. You can't get it on discount. You got to earn it. And so I tell people all the time, if you want that dog in, you got to feed it every day. Yeah. And that's just what I did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, so many people want to hit a button and have something just work out for them, pan out. And I think nowadays with social media and just instant gratification all around us, it's like now we have apps that are convenient that can get us things quicker. So easy, yeah. And so because everything's becoming easier, it's like anybody that wants to put any type of work in, I mean, there's an instant wall up. It's like, wait, I can't get this today, not even tomorrow, not 6 months from now. But you realize it's those small incremental changes over time. That's who makes you. That makes you. Dude, and I can relate to that. I hip hop dance. Yeah. And when I first started a year and a half ago, I was horrendous. And people were sharing, I was posting online, people were sharing it more than they were liking it. Yeah. Well, I knew what that meant. Yeah. And that was everyone's laughing stock, right?
And here I am a year and a half later, and now all of a sudden, oh, I'm kind of cool. And now all of a sudden he can kind of dance. And now all of a sudden people want to be around me, and he's not cringy anymore. And it's like, no, but I think of you weren't shooting with me in the gym. Like you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. Yeah. And that's, and so I think about that, but I'm like, of course, again, like I put the work in, weeks after week after week after week to build where I am. I didn't just wake up and hit a move right out the womb.
Yeah, but you fall in love with that process. That's why my brand's called Dark Work. It's about the work of the dark to win in the light. And it is sort of, I think for me, what I've loved is getting like feedback after I get off a stage and I talk to people and they go, thank you for giving me the gift of appreciation for the things that I've been doing that I hated.
Because you're also validating them by talking about, saying, hey, I see you. And I respect the work that you're doing that nobody else is seeing, right? Because a lot of times we just, it's nice to feel seen and heard and to say, oh, like somebody to go up on stage like you and say, hey, that work you're putting in, just know that while we may not see it, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like, that's oftentimes all our ego needs to hear is like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I know you're putting that work in because I can tell by how you keep showing up every day.
Yeah. And the truth is most people, they don't even get that. And I think it's years ago, I had this conversation with somebody. It kind of made sense. They go, what was the drive for you? They go, was it because people said you couldn't do it? And I go, it wasn't. And I go, what do you mean? I go, I hear a lot of people go, well, because like we talked about, because somebody said I couldn't do it, I wanted to do it. And I, for some reason, knew that I was angry at when I first started at the world determining my drive. Whether they would support me or not support me, didn't matter. But if I do it because you tell me I can't, eventually I'm going to prove you wrong. And then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so for me, what it turned into was like, I enjoyed the sense of like, I thought I was like a superhero.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm telling you, bro, it's just for me.
Yeah.
It sounds super odd to say it that way, but like, I like that I get to cheer for me. I respect me. And so because I respect me, I show up for me in certain ways. And there's certain things that I don't let myself down. Right. And that's the greatest gift I've ever given myself, because it also makes me become a more integrous, honest human behind closed doors than in front of it.
Yeah.
I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better coach, I'm better everything, because if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as this is going to be super weird even also, but I don't cheat on my wife because I love my wife.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that I want to cheat on her. I don't. I love my wife. But one of the bigger reasons is I don't want to meet the man who does. That guy, I would be so disgusted by that man that it would be so far out of my integrity that I would hate myself. So I am an integrous, honest, loyal husband because that's the man I am.
Yeah.
And I don't want to meet me and not have that respect for me.
Yeah.
So while, yes, a piece of it is I love my wife, obviously, like it gets to the point where I go, I'm not that guy. And that's not my standard. That's not who I am. That'll never take place because I will hate to have to look me in the mirror and know that I did that.
Yeah.
And so when I have that and I can give you the idea of what that looks like for a human, those are the best people I know.
Yeah.
It's not abnormal. Like it's maybe that whole part of like not cheating your wife reason, right? But the people I meet that are high performers and high operators, they love themselves at a level of not disliking anybody else or not loving you, but they love themselves at a level so deep that they won't let themselves fall short of who they see themselves to be.
Yeah. And I think this is where the tie-in to, the way how you are internally is ultimately what you receive externally. And so I think if you're chaotic and you lack respect internally, whether you realize it or not, you're subconscious. I mean, you're putting that out there.
Yeah, you are.
And now you're receiving disrespect back. And this is where I think people, they miss the boat. They say, oh, well, these people are just, assholes. And it's like, no, but why are you allowing them to be an asshole to you? Right. You're allowing this behavior. Whereas you could also shut it down. But this is a matter of, okay, what's actually, if you're seeing this outwardly, so often we point the finger when it's like, why aren't you pointing it back this way? Right.
Yeah.
I heard this talking about you basically saying, the best version of yourself, you couldn't allow yourself to be anything less than that. There's this saying somebody told me where it's like, hell isn't a fiery burning pit. What hell is having to meet the best version of yourself face to face and then ask and then figure out what decisions you made to ultimately not become that.
Yeah.
And I feel that same way every day. I wake up, I talk about beat yesterday every day. That's that's one of my mottos that I live by. It's like, if I'm progressing every single day, even if it's one thing, to your point, not these massive jumps, but just these little steps forward, 365 steps all of a sudden now becomes 365 steps, quite a leap, right? But it's not that I'm jumping once, it's that I'm jumping 365 times, little by little.
Yeah.
And looking at what's in front of me too, right? Not looking too far ahead or behind, but just basically like, what can I do right in here in front of me? Because I control my immediate surroundings.
That's all you can control.
And so having that narrow focus and selfishness, I love that you touched on that. I'm selfish, and I've always had people tell me I thought selfishness is negative. It's got a negative connotation. Most people, if you ask them, does selfishness have a negative or positive connotation? I would guarantee that the large majority will say negative.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is when you have to figure out what is the end result that this person is trying to accomplish. I want to basically be selfish to acquire all the energy that I can, whether it's financial, currency, that being a form of energy, whether it's love, whether it's opportunities.
Yeah.
But when I fill my cup up, what I do is I turn around and I start pouring into other people's.
Yeah, you can do well with it.
But when I'm empty, I'm not pouring because I'm like, oh, I'm in a bad spot right now where like my cup's empty. So yes, I'm going to hold this very close to me and be careful with where I'm putting my energy. Right. So again, if the end result, that's where you have to figure out, okay, what's the end result there? And in that regard, if you become really selfish and you acquire, then you can pour out and be the most unselfish person.
You have more to give. Honestly, if you don't fill up, you can't pour out to begin with.
Yeah.
And there's a piece to where if selfishness can be in service, like I think it's funny. Some people look at individuals and go, well, they're helping a lot of people. We're only doing it so they look good. Yeah, but they're still helping people. Maybe they do care about looking good, and that's totally okay. But the outcome is they're still helping people. Now, if them looking good is then hurting something, now we're in a different discussion. Yeah. But it doesn't hurt anybody in that aspect. And then at the same time, I go, I don't know solid people who are happy who even think that or question it or judge you.
Yep.
So then I go, wherever your thoughts of me being selfish are coming from, like, bro, it's your own thing. Like, unless I did something to you, like you gotta, if me serving people and being selfish that way is pissing you off, you might want to check inside, man, because I didn't do anything to you.
Yeah. Happy people don't hurt people.
Happy people don't, man.
Hurt people.
Yeah, dude. I've never met a happy, joyous person go like, I hate your haircut.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do it.
Yeah. Or send out that message to your DM or comment on your photo and say like this, whatever, you fill in the blank. This person, this looks terrible. This is an ugly outfit, or you're an idiot, or whatever. It's a happy person doesn't have that thought cross their minds. Yeah. They just look at something and go, oh, okay. Or they probably
press on.
Yeah, cool. You do your thing.
I agree, man.
Yeah. And so the hard part is how do you get through to those individuals? And I think, that's where, that's a whole different topic as far as, having, I mean, again, it's like.
It's anchored grace, I think.
Yeah.
When somebody hits me with those, because I get hit sideways. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some I don't have the energy to entertain, and they don't deserve to be entertained. Because then I start taking my really limited store of energy, and I'm giving it to a place that's not willing to receive it. Period. So I go, I'm not going to give you my 80% and then leave 20 for my 80%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I choose in those moments is like I give them just anchored grace, and I go, I've had a guy reach out and goes, hey man, I hate your voice, like a bad FM voice. Out of the blue. Yeah. And I go, hey man, appreciate it. I hope you find someone on your feed that actually you like. And I'm not your guy. It's totally cool, but I hope you find that person. And that little piece, he's like, well, I didn't respect that response. I respect the response. And I go, that's cool. I don't know what you did expect, but I'm not mad and bothered by it. And he's like, well, now I feel bad for saying that to him. I'm like, what do you mean? So we had this little back and forth. We had a good little conversation for a while.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is I got to give this man grace of like, he's got something going on. And usually when someone has something going on, they're trying to give you something because they want to have, let's say, misery loves company. Yeah. There's a story about Gandhi, and I don't know where it took place. Or maybe I might have been, but anyways, someone's walking around, they walk up to Gandhi and they go, I hate you. I hate your guts. And they berate him, right? And then he goes, thank you. They go, no, I don't think you get it. I get needs to, again, he goes, thank you. And he goes, no. And then he says, thank you. The guy storms off all angry. One of his, kind of followers walks up and goes, Gandhi, how come you didn't say anything to him? And he goes, well, when somebody walks up and tries to give you a gift, if you don't receive it, they then have to walk off with it.
So it really never settles in with you.
It doesn't. I just don't let it settle in. I've had a guy at the airport one time call me an Afro dick. Wild. San Francisco airport. I was like, first off, that's creative. I was like, I'm not gonna lie.
Right. I'm gonna lie, dog. Yeah.
I think people yell at cars at me, learn to drive, and I go, God, at the end of the day, I don't want to bring whatever you have into my day. Having a good day. I don't know you. I'll never get to know you. You don't know me. Yeah. And so I go, why am I going to offload this and get myself in trouble for doing something stupid to begin with? But secondly, I go give it to somebody else. I'm not receiving that. I'm gonna drive off, have a great rest of my day. I'll laugh at it. Like it actually was pretty comical. Yeah. Like I was like, bro, I was some older guy. I go, that's actually creative, man. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I was like, but we're at an airport. I can get the police if you want, or you can just leave. One and two. I was kind of whatever. He got up and stormed off, and it was wild because I go, something had to happen in this guy's life, in the trip, or whatever's going on, for him to feel the need to say that. And I go, I actually have a sense of compassion for the human in him that had that much pain to talk to a stranger in that way.
Yeah.
More than I'm mad at the guy.
Yeah, because the reality is, I mean, to your point, misery loves company, and those individuals are trying to pull somebody else down to their vibrational frequency so that they can be just as upset as them. So that way, in a way, their subconscious feels less alone.
They scratch the itch.
Yeah, I scratch the itch, and now you feel just as terrible as I do, and so now I'm not alone. And that's like, I think that's just an evolutionary thing where
psychological,
it's psychological.
That's why exes like text you craziness to get you all fired up.
Yeah.
Happens.
Because they text you the crazy stuff because they're upset and they go, you know what? I'm going to mess with them.
Yeah.
So they post that Instagram story with their hand, clinking a glass with another male hand. And they know that you're going to see that.
They know it's a wild.
And they're going to be like, because of course they're thinking about you and they want you to think about them.
And the solution is you don't even act like it ever existed.
You don't give it any weight. You just basically don't even, and they check your story.
Yeah, they do. They want to see.
They check the story. They go, he saw it, but then they don't hear anything. And then all of a sudden you get that text.
Yeah.
So what? You're just gonna let me go? It doesn't bother you, and then you find out. But then what happens? You have a conversation. You give them grace. You realize they're hurting. You realize that they ultimately just want to heal, but they're going about it the wrong way. They're trying to pull people down when they should be trying to build themselves up.
It's all instinctual. I tell my daughter this all the time too. I go to because she goes to school and this girl's her age, she's 15, little catty things going on, and they say things about her, and I go, see, I realize at the end of the day, your best solution is not to argue. It's to ignore. I said, what do they do with the most vile inmates in prisons? Solitary confinement. Mm-hmm. So the worst that you can do is confine somebody to solitude by not giving them any attention.
Yeah, 1000%.
The best thing you can do is to act like they don't exist. And I promise you, it'll give you the most peace and then the most pain.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to realize, but that's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see this all across. When you don't give somebody that attention, when you just act like you just brush it off, they move on. The second you're in a car and somebody honks their horn and you flip them off, now we're in something. Who knows what you opened it up to, right? Yeah. I've seen this when I've walked the streets and there's homeless individuals, like when they're yelling and screaming and being violent. If you don't, it's the individuals that look at them, that acknowledge them,
the eye contact.
They turn their focus to you, and again, you never know what they're going through, and that's why I'm like, hey, the place that they had to. To get to this place, what happened to them? Mm-hmm. But sometimes, they're in a bad place and they're very violent. They're yelling. And it's like, but when you don't even acknowledge it, right? You don't show it. It's like they cease to exist and they don't bother you. Mm-hmm. But the same way when I got bullied growing up, it's like I found out finally that when you stop giving a reaction, they no longer take the actions.
Oh yeah.
And so
they get bored of it.
They get bored of it because they want some type of extreme
squirm.
Reaction,
they want that word to squirm. If you get like a magnifying glass, you're burning like a worm.
Yeah.
Well, it's squirm when you do it. Once the worm stops squirming, it's like, nah, I'm bored. You do something right.
That's a good point. I used to play with bugs growing up. I had those little bug catchers.
I used to burn grasshoppers. Yeah. They would pop. It's super weird.
Yeah. No,
is that bad? Is that like a psychological, like?
I don't know, man, but I
didn't hunt animals and do weird stuff to animals at least.
No,
I burned some grasshoppers.
For whatever reason, insects were like fair game.
Yeah.
We used to.
Take the legs off?
I did. We had these fireflies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to squish out the little, the part that illuminates or whatever. So I'm crushing them so I can light my hands up.
Oh, wow.
And I'm running around like,
I never saw a firefly in real life until like my mid 30s.
Okay.
It was in DC. I grew up in California.
Did it blow your mind? I mean,
I was riding a bike and I ran into my face and I was stopped like a little kid. Look at fireflies.
I had a cousin that hadn't seen one until she was like 23 and she's sitting out there in our backyard, running around, trying to grab them. I'm like, you're just about 15 years behind when I was doing it. Yeah. But they are cool. But I don't know. I turned out okay. But I used to take slugs and throw them in salt water.
Yeah, and watch them bubble up.
And watch them squirm around. And you just and I mean, gosh, now I'm like, I was like, gosh, why'd I do that? But to your point, the second they stop moving, you're like, all right, dump it out, move on.
So when you get bullied and people pick on you, if you squirm, I'm telling you, they'll keep going and keep going and keep going. It's those who if they can't get through to you, they waste their time, they press on to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, again, really just great advice right there. I want to go back a little bit because you touched on something that I felt also drove me. Mm-hmm. Anger.
Yeah.
A really great driver. Mm-hmm. Gets things done. Where did that anger stem from? Because ultimately, I mean, it pushed you to a pretty high degree.
You know what's funny is I think for me that there was an assumption that the foster care may be an angry football player. And the thing is, I don't think it did. It sounds weird, but I don't have. So my mom did a lot of stuff. She used to lie about, I'm gonna come pick you up. And as a foster kid, it's all you want, your mom to come pick you up. She wouldn't pick me up. I'd cry myself to sleep. I was wet in the bed till I was 14 years old. Like wild stuff, man. And And I had more of a sadness than I had an anger. And so what happened was the anger I played with was an anger of, you didn't deserve to beat me. That was what it was. Like, and so when I played with that, or I had it, my outside everyday life, I wasn't mad, and I was in a lot of fights, but most of the fights I was in elementary school were kids just like picking on me. I was the only black kid in all white elementary school. So I got a bunch of weird little slurs, and I'm beating kids up left and right, it felt like. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't angry at the foster kid. I wasn't angry at that. And also, a lot of them didn't know I was a foster kid. I didn't want them to know, right? So there wasn't that kind of anger. But what it was I had a helplessness. Like I felt like I had no control. I felt like the world was depicting my left and right. And even when I didn't do well in football, like I was like, I have no control over this. He throws me the ball or doesn't throw me the ball. I catch or I don't. Like, I have no control. It was a good throw or bad. I didn't take ownership of it. And then what happened was I did that work in the off season, and all of a sudden I had the sense of like, wait, I'm in control. Like, I can do something. I have some literally agency. Like I call it powerful personal agency. I had this sense of, I actually have the ability to manipulate things around me, and I can do this. And so now what happens is part of me has like this, like I have a real baseline level of integrity. It's right or it's wrong. And if it's wrong, you don't do it, and that's it. If it's right, you do it, and that's it. And so whenever we get to the football field, I'm around teammates of mine in practice and everything. I know you were partying. I know you were drinking. I know you weren't going to the lifts. I know you missed them. I know you weren't running. You don't get to catch the ball. That's not how this works. Like, you don't deserve it. You didn't do it. You don't get that. So if the ball's in the air, my anger was the fact that you thought you had the right to beat me. Yeah. And if you did beat me, we're lining back up again. Yeah. So I played angry from like literally snap to whistle, because I knew you didn't deserve to beat me. In my mind, I'd outpaced you. So if you won, something's wrong in the world. Yeah. And that was just that's how I function. I still to this day in a certain level function like that. Like I'm telling you, bro, I hate when people don't stop at stop signs. Okay. It sounds stupid, but I'm like, that's wrong. 100%.
What if they roll them? Like they go
we
from
don't roll, bro.
15 down to like
maybe
2-3 miles an hour.
I get the 2 or 3 miles an hour. I'll give you that.
If so, you're gonna have a
problem. But I see people just flying through. I'm like, what is? And it's the still base of me, of all things that throw me. It's like this lack of human understanding. Because what's worse is those will be the same people complaining about the world not being fair. Yeah. Like you do these things and then life cycles back around. And so I have like maybe it's dharma, karma, whatever you want to call it. Like the idea is I do right happens. Now also on the flip side, I had to learn over life that I could do right and wrong still may happen, but it's because man's given free will. And I can understand that. And I go, great, what can I do to not have this situation arise so I am at the whim of somebody else? And so I don't go around those kind of people anymore. I'm more selective with my circle of people. Like I have, certain groups, but the anger I had that I think all of us, we can tap into when we need to, is this anger of like, hey, do I deserve this? I mean, being honest with yourself. Like I think Tiger Woods one time had this talk about like when he didn't win, he goes, I didn't win because I didn't deserve to win. He says, I know when I was prepping and doing my stuff, I won every time. Yeah. When I didn't, and I didn't deserve to. And he says, and that's okay with me. And I fully understand that, because I go, well, if something didn't pan out, it's because I didn't deserve it. Yeah. And the thing is, while I could be wrong, right, at least I have some agency and control still. Yep. I'm not sitting here going, well, I'm never going to do it again, because even if I do work, it might not work out. And why am I going to waste? It's just a dumb mentality to get into. Yeah. And so I go, no matter what happens, if it didn't pan out, it's on me. And find out how. Even if it sounds stupid to you, I'm going to find out how. I'm going to go give the work and the effort into it. And lo and behold, usually it works out in my favor. Yeah.
I love that, because that's the way that I look at it too, is if something doesn't happen, it's not meant for me in that moment. Yeah, it's okay. But that doesn't mean that it's not meant for me forever. And so, okay, how do I go back to the drawing board and give myself a better shot at it next time? Yeah. Right. Like, that just means that if I lost a real estate deal or a solar deal, okay, not, oh, well, that's because this person, they just don't get it. It's like, okay, how do I convey my message better to where it's Loctite? Yeah.
What did I do wrong?
So when I go back in the next time, I'm going to make it so hard for them to look at any other. They're going to be like, you know what, forget it. I don't even want to look at the other 2-3 options. You're it. You're my guy. I've never felt more confident in my life at the fact that you can help me and get me a great product. And I don't have to, go and check and look at the other competitors' prices, because I can just tell by your integrity. I can just tell by the aura that you present that like I'm in good hands. Yeah. And that's the way that I always see it, is like, how can just to focus on you, because the reality is you can control your reactions, to what's occurring, and you can control your actions to some degree, but you really can't control the outside action.
No, you can't. But you are the common denominator in all your situations.
Yeah.
Good or
And
bad.
how you do, to your point, also how you do one thing is how you do everything. And you talk about people rolling stop signs are the same people that are going to be complaining that life's not fair. I absolutely do agree that I've met people like such as yourself and other high profile individuals, and people that have integrity, and they do the little things. Perfect example for me, you know what drives me up a wall? The individuals that don't put their freaking shopping carts away.
I know.
I don't care
Wild
if
to
I have
me.
to walk halfway across
It's
the
not that hard to
parking
do.
lot. You will see me put that every single time, because to me, that's finishing the job.
Mhm.
Because when I show up, in order for me to do my job, i.e. go into the store and I have to first grab the shopping cart. So I'm starting my job by getting the shopping cart. Then I put everything in the shopping cart. Then I go out to my car and I unload it. And to finish the job, it's that last little bit where, again, I don't really seek to gain any type of validation from the outside. It's not that. It's showing that I finished the job when it's something so mundane and something that seems so like doesn't matter.
It does though.
But it does, because again, that's this, because what I also do is I make my bed every morning, right? I do the little things. I follow routines and I do the things that work, because that shows me that, like, no, I don't go 50% of the way through with it. I do all of it, right? And that way, and again, who knows? I mean, a perfect example. I saw this recently. You never know what's going to work in your favor. I was involved in this crazy court case, and I recently saw a video that came up about when I was representing myself in court. Which was not a smart thing to do. I would not advise for anyone to do that.
All right.
But I end up, trying to fight this case by myself, and I end up losing that day. And this was all recorded unbeknownst to me. But it ended up, so, now here we are a year and a half later, and I was reading somebody made a comment that, like, look, they're basically praising my character. I lost the case, but when I got up, there were two chairs, the chair I was sitting in, the chair that should have been a lawyer, but wasn't. And they were both pushed back. And I get up, I pack up all my stuff in my suitcase, and then I turn before I leave and I push the chairs in. And I just walk out, because I'm thinking, like, hey, leave the chairs, put them here, so the next person that comes.
How it belongs.
And that's the way that it should be. And this person, it just meant something to me, because they commented, like, the way that he pushed in the chairs after he lost, and he's still, thinking about the next person, about leaving this place better than when he came in. And I just thought, like, wow, I didn't think anything of that, but now all of a sudden this person's now judging my character.
The nonverbal stuff.
And I'm like, you never know who's watching. And I never did that in that moment to be like, look at me. I didn't know I was even being recorded in that moment.
Do your thing.
But it's like, that's the thing, is that people think that no one's watching, but they are. And they may be watching that shopping cart. And you just kicking it up on the curb. Because again, it matters. Again, if you don't finish the job,
what you do, it's all who you are.
How do you appear? Are you clean shaven? Or are you looking a little scraggly? And are you taking care of yourself? I mean, all these things I see is like, those that do take care of themselves, they do all these things.
Well, it becomes a standard, which I would call an identity. So my work is essentially an identity. It's who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. It's what you just outlined, right? And what most people don't grasp is you cannot attain or sustain a life above your current identity. So most people want something at a higher level. But if you aren't the person who does the things that level of life requires of you, you don't get it. It's like saying I want to be a world famous baker, but I hate bread. Well, then it's weird, because then you're not gonna touch bread and mess with bread, right? But the idea is, if I want what that person has in life, they have certain things they have done to reach that level and sustain that level. And most of those things are the unseen things, the things you're talking about now. It's all in the minor details. So what happens is, you show up to a moment, they function different than you would, therefore they get it, you don't, and you think it's because, well, I didn't do that, and it's all their fault, it's the world's fault. And I go, no, it's 100% your fault. Like it in a sense of, like, if you give yourself that ownership and go, well, where is my fault? Where can I improve? Then you start taking the control of it. But also what it does, it sets a certain standard for what you will not do. I won't do this. I won't do this. And sure enough, in not doing that, you're having to do other things, right? So I'm not going to leave the cart next to my car. I had to go put the cart back, right? I had whatever it may be. But in doing so, now you're aligning more with the actions, the habits, and the patterns of a person who has a nice car, who has a great relationship, who has the great business. And it's not accidental. It's not like just all of a sudden just happened. And so if most people could grasp that is the key to it, it's the things you do small that create who you are, that at first they're uncomfortable. It feels out of character, but you just do it. You do it long enough to where now it goes from being hard to do this thing to hard not to do it. That's who I am now. And now you do that thing, and sure enough, I got more money, and I got more time, I got a great relationship. It ain't accidental. Your set point is doing that. And here's the beautiful part of it. It's easy emotionally to be at one level. And then it's easy emotionally to be at a higher level when you get there. The hard part is not being here. It's getting here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the pain. Because the emotional level I feel of effort and expenditure at this level of life now, if I go back to I was at 18, feels the same.
Yeah.
The hard part was getting to this sinking point, right?
Yeah.
And then I wake up and go, I got up at 3:50, I head out the door, I do this thing, kiss my kids, I hang out, but I'm on it, right? The emotional level of like cadence, like I can handle this. I've lifted the weights of life to be strong enough to handle it. But the training to get there sucked.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't grasp is like, you're not battling to get to a point where someday, it's going to be just as hard every day. Like you're battling the days to get to the point where that day is like, I get up and feel just as comfortable in this new life as I do the current life, but I have a higher output at this level.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, you do motivational speaking and you inspire people to create change in their lives and to take on this mindset and start to be able to shift their perspective into basically having a winner's mentality, those that can, that can do attitude. What do you find is the hardest part of the human mind to overcome? So I guess the biggest,
I know what it is. Yeah.
So, well, let's just, instead of me extrapolating.
Ego, bro. Ego, 100%. I call ego, everybody says edging God out. I think it's everyone's greatest obstacle. Because think about it this way. Everybody goes, I'm not perfect. I go, great. This is not great. This is not great. Oh, hold on. And I go, well, you just said you're not perfect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm good at that. And I go, but this person said you're not. You're not doing a very good job. Do you think I said, if your hero walked in, would they congratulate you on the level of effort? Well, I mean, okay, well, if we're being honest now, then no, right?
Yeah.
But if your ego is going to be the wall to me right now, you'll never give yourself permission to give the effort to improve that.
Yeah.
Because you'll just sit there. And so what I find is a lot of folks know they want more. I want to have more. I go, great. Well, what do you have to find ways to be better? I don't know. I got to look into it. So we actually unpack. We call it roots and fruits. I unpack your roots and fruits of life. And I go, okay, well, measure yourself here and here, all through 10 of them. And if they're honest, they got these low numbers. And I go, so we got to work on this. The problem is most of the time they don't want to work on it because they don't want to admit they're not doing great there.
Yeah. Like
no one wants to admit that their health isn't where it should be, or that their relationship isn't great, or their faith in self or in a higher power is not very good. No one wants to admit that they have low emotional control in heightened situations, right? Their friendships aren't very good or supportive. And like they don't know how to have a hard conversation with their friends. They won't admit that.
Yeah. So
then I go, okay, great. Well, if you want to admit those things, you're never going to give the effort to improve those. So your roots aren't stable. You're never going to increase your fruits, which is faith. It's career education, finance escape, and like purpose in life. You'll never create great fruit in your life because you won't face the roots.
Yeah.
Your ego's in the way. And so for me, the biggest piece of it is, oh man, who's even worse is like the higher performers because they have what I call a defender's identity. There's a quadrant I built, and there's a dreamer who like, I can do it, but never does. A dabbler who bounces around when things get hard. Yeah. A defender will fight for position they're currently in, but they're apprehensive to take on new stuff because it might detract from their already built success. So these guys that feel good, girls that feel good, they don't take something new on because what if it makes me look bad, right? Yeah. Defenders pop in. And so what happens is these people, when the defender comes in, the ego rears up and it goes, no, I'm good here. I don't need any help. Look how successful I already am. I already had 7 figures. I get that, but you're not a podcaster. Yeah. So let's take the intangibles and go here, but don't battle what it takes to be new again. And for me, like I'm a speaker by trade. But I'm a keynote speaker / motivational. I'm brought in for like very specific things on dark work. But then I also have to do, we'll call it conversion speaking to get people into coaching programs. Those are completely different types of talking. Yeah. Because one has to outline over here a way to think to be more joyous, more motivated, right, in your life. One has to go, I need you to understand the position you're in and how to be better and how to move forward with me. Different language points. And I realized this. And so I'm actually in the middle of it now, of taking a course by somebody who I don't know, but I like their stuff, of exactly how to do that properly. I'm 100% cool with being a beginner. Yeah. But it's because I realized that I have to go through that journey to get there. But most people, their ego gets too big. Yeah. They won't take it out of the way. Yeah. So never, I'm a good speaker. Yeah, but are you good at this? Well, I'm pretty good. No, but are you good at this? And to have them go, no, is so difficult for folks.
Yeah. And that would that be then the transitionary portion, like part, once you get them to admit it? Is that basically, do you find that that's the big hurdle?
It's a huge hurdle.
Once they jump that and they say, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not great in this regard. I mean, what resistance do you face beyond that?
Then it's doing new things that aren't who they are.
Okay. So now it's just the discomfort.
So we have a thing called a dark work experience, the whole process. The first thing is called respect the light, which is what we're talking about. Ego work. We dig into who they are. And it's respecting the light of the place you want to go later on. What light do you want to step into and feel great and confident there that you're not currently at? Yeah. I say, I got to see what it is to have some gravity to it. So I go, man, it's going to be hard. And you breathe into that. So when you take a step, you don't get punched in the face the first time and back out of the fight. But at some point, we'll clear up what you got to do. Then we start looking at how to plan. I call design your dark. Because most folks, they operate off of, I'm committed to an emotion. Yeah. So when the emotion gets away from you, let's say 7 in the morning on day 7, you're like, I don't want to do this. Well, they're not committed to anything but the emotion. Emotion's gone, non-committal. Yeah. But if there's a plan, you design it, you can be disciplined to a process or a plan. You can go, I don't want to do it. And I go, F your feelings. Let's get it done, right? Yeah. So you can step in. But here's the hard part, is now somebody is faced with actions that are not who they see themselves to be. Yeah. Right? It's the first step of everything. Like when you first started to do a podcast, you're like, I don't know. But I'm going to just hit a mic and have somebody come in. You're like, hope I don't mess it up. And you just kind of lean in. But successful people go, I've had success here and here and here and here. So some parts of my skill sets allow me to have success. Let me be okay borrowing from that and applying it to something new and trying it, even though I'm not going to feel great in the beginning. Yeah. And so you step into it and go, all right, I sucked, but it was cool, right? So I say you have to identify with the effort, not the outcome. Because most go, I look at the outcome and go, but I'm not a great speaker. I'm not a great podcaster. I'm not, great at singing or whatever it is. Okay, I know you're not, but that's the outcome. Yeah. Identify with the effort that these people did. So I go, you know what? I'm not there yet, but I gave great effort today. And then I gave great effort tomorrow. Again, it's to go small in a big way. Yeah. But most folks, there's such a disconnect from the outcome of where they're seeing they're not at that they won't even start. Yeah. And so I go, hey, you got to work on this, right? Yeah, then do this. I don't want to. But I don't do technology. I don't do videos. I don't care what you don't do. You get excuses or you get the outcome. Yeah. So the excuse can be this, but you don't get the outcome, right? Yeah. One or the other, boss. And so for most folks, it's like, can you do the thing that you now know you must do that doesn't feel good to you to do? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a break with their identity. All of a sudden they say, well, this is all I've known. So now I'm going to go in here and this unknown environment may possibly have its way with me where I'm going to end up looking stupid. And so now all of a sudden, because it does happen. I mean, this happens, everyone has their ego and an ego is just as powerful as it is destructive, right? Yeah. We got to have one. I mean, you can't.
Oh, it's a very beneficial tool also.
Yeah. I talk about people like you got to experience ego death and resurrection. Yeah. Because again, I think people say ego death and that's it. It's like, but bring it back to life. Like you can't go without your ego because the days where, your back's against the wall and everyone's telling you can't, that's my ego in the mirror. That's like, look at you. Yeah. Look what you think of all people can't do it. You can't. Like, what have you been through? Like,
I get it.
That's the ego that comes up.
It's necessary. Like the ego for us as football players. My ego told me I'm a great football player. Yeah. So if I'm going to be able to continue to say that, I better lift weights and eat my right food and run my, my plays and my playbook. So my ego forced me into actions, minor and massive actions that would keep me in that space of being able to say that's who I am. Yeah. So it's an amazingly beneficial tool also. You need both.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Yeah. And everything that you said today, what I like is there's a terminology called just chunking. So I'm sure you've probably heard of it. It's taking something massive and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces that can make sense. And so being able to say, okay, hey, this isn't about the outcome. I did this when I first started saying I want to get into the speaking space. What did I do? I watched Tony Robbins videos. Yeah. Well, because I was like, I might as well watch one of the best ones to do it. But then my ego starts saying, I have my first speech and I record it because everyone tells me, record your speech, and then go back and watch it. And I go back and watch it. And what do? I'm like, well, that doesn't look anything like Tony Robbins. I'm not meant to do this. Yeah. And then, I caught myself. I said, no, my ego's trying to protect me because it's like, you're not bringing a Tony Robbins level of performance, but you're also comparing yourself to 30 years of Tony Robbins. Yeah. And I saw one of his first speeches. He was still very gifted. I mean, that's why he's one of the best to do it. Right. Yeah. So he just came in at a higher baseline, but I go, okay, what I should be doing is looking at Tony Robbins day one versus Tony Robbins 30 years
100%.
Later, right? And look at that amount of growth that's occurred there. Yeah. And I did the same thing with dance where I was like, quit looking at, some of these people, I guess I can't say because they're in hot water, but certain really good dancers. Yeah. And it's like, but you can't compare to the lifetime dancer. You got to just look at yourself, right? And say like, okay, record yourself, and then 2 months later, record another video, and you're gonna be like, "Whoa, look at the progress!"
Progressive steps. I say you can't question the purpose because you lack the progress.
I like that.
Like if there's a purpose and it feels good. Yeah. Don't let the lack of progress stop it. Because the truth is, it's not about the purpose that you see and like the outcome you're looking for. It's like, do you actually feel connected when you do it? Do you feel alive?
Yeah.
Like, do you actually enjoy doing it? If you do, cool. The progress will come as you continue to keep living into that flow. But most people go, I'm not here by now. What do you think you're just going to get there? This dude's 3 months in. You've been doing it for 3 weeks, boss. Like, chill.
Yeah.
Like, I know you want to get there, but I don't know if it's society and the immediate gratification issues. But when you legitimately fall in love with the day, just fall in love with the day and whatever it looks like, I'm telling you, man, magic happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, I am like, at this moment now, I'm like almost 5 months into like this kind of training regimen. I wouldn't say it was based on weight loss. I'm like, I want to get in some great shape. I want to be fit at 40.
Yeah.
It was fit by 40 and then it didn't happen. So like, let me get fit at 40, right? So I'll get in. And the idea was, I saw a bud the other day. He's like, bro, like, what'd you do? I said, I stopped counting days, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't realize how smooth it is when I start doing things without counting the hours.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be work where you don't count the hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can lean into something and just, it starts to happen, and you just do it, and you're not going, okay, that's 5 hours, and that's 5 days, and that's 5. That process there, you're not loving the day, you're waiting to get to a destination.
Yep.
But if you can just find ways to enjoy it, like it's way different. Like so now I enjoy, like at the end of a workout, like watch how fast did I get it done? Did I reach my rest period? Did I increase a little bit of weight somewhere else? How do I feel overall? Is my back not tight? Like, little things. And so that stuff for me is like, it's enjoyable. I get the dopamine dump.
Yeah.
And then I pop my head up and go, damn, I'm down 30 pounds. I'm faster than I have been in the last, probably 10 years. Like my back doesn't hurt anymore. I don't got my heels, my knees are feeling good.
Yeah.
I had to realize that because I wasn't focused on that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, can you do the work that you're not counting hours for because you enjoy doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, you're focused on the now. You're present.
You find something.
You're fully present. I mean, that's what you're describing is like, I'm in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So let me not sit here and get lost in how much, long this is going to take, counting the minutes. Like, let me just get lost in the process.
Is it?
And then just all of a sudden I pull my head up one day and it's like, whoa.
You're somewhere.
Then you look back, because you don't look back. So many people look back every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm not any farther than I was yesterday. But it's like when you keep your head down for 365 days and then you look up and look back, you go, whoa, right? Because now like we see this giant, gap that we've leaped. But of course, if you look at it after one day, it's tough,
like, dude.
You're like, oh, look, that's a little baby step.
Like the coffee shop mindset. You ever go to a coffee shop, you have work to do.
Yeah.
And then like you find yourself like you've been there for 30 minutes, you're still scrolling.
1,000%.
You're like, oh, and then like you're like, yeah. So I put the phone down and I go,
Mhm.
I gotta work, right? And then I get in the computer. For the first minute, I'm still thinking about the phone, right? Second minute, I'm still thinking about the phone. By the fifth, sixth minute, I melt into the computer.
Yeah.
And then like 2 hours goes by, and and everything's done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh crap! Like the emails are done. This is written. I got that to the team. I'm just in a magical flow, right? And I go, a lot of us, we can't just get to the point of putting the phone down.
Yeah.
Like you can't just like melt it away and just flow into the work. And that's how it is. The same thing for like a day. Like the first 5 days feels like you're still thinking about the phone kind of feeling. But after like that first week, if you just like fall into it,
Mm-hmm.
the weeks melt away.
Yeah.
Then a month goes by, 2 months go by, and you're loving the day. I'm like going to get up and I'm counting my steps, and I'm like, where can I get creative about where am I going to take my steps today? I got to get 12,000 every day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go for a walk out here today. I'm gonna hit the treadmill here today. I'm just gonna do housework. I'm gonna make sure that I leave tools in different places in my yard. So I got to walk to the tool to get it to do stuff. It sounds super stupid sometimes, but it helps me get it done. And then I made a game out of it. And now it's like, cool, right? But I proactively go seek that.
Yeah.
And I put it into my day, as opposed to trying to find the easiest, less stress, make it all get done so I can,
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy the process of it. And now the days go by, the weeks go by, the months go by, and the result happens without me even paying attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's beautifully said. And I like, again, just fall in love with the process. I mean, that's the overarching theme here. And also, again, stay in your own lane. Comparison culture, it's the thief of joy. We have so much of it around nowadays. And it's like when you're just narrow focused on having a bit of selfishness and saying, okay, how can I just focus on me? There's all the rest of this stuff.
Set your own scale.
It only exists once I acknowledge it, right? But every so often, like it's fine to throw the blinders on, realizing that this thing is going to be there.
Mhm.
Your cell phone's going to be there on the other side of that hour.
Yeah.
You're not missing anything that important. It's like there's no real emergencies in life besides a couple here and there. But for the most part, like anything can be addressed an hour or two later. A day
Always
later.
can be, man.
So it's just having that belief of like, this doesn't have to be get done right away. I can set this aside and really just give my all into this scenario.
Yeah. I call it set your own scale. Like I choose to, like I have a North Star of my life, which is my family.
Okay.
Like I don't want to be away from the house. Like I can't wait to get home right now. And so that's my North Star. And what that tells me is I have a very definitive of what I want to do in my day. That's my scale.
Yeah.
Now, I could easily be away from my house every single week if I wanted to, on multiple stages if I wanted to, working all hours of the night if I wanted to. I could. My wife would be pissed. My kids wouldn't see much of me, but I could convince them to I got to do it for it. But the idea for me is I go, that doesn't fit the life I want to live in my scale. Yeah. And so while somebody else might go, well, man, you could be on this stage and doing this and travel around doing, you could be all these kind of things. I go, I get that. But that's not my scale or my North Star.
Yeah. And
so I'm going to do what I want to do. And therefore, even if you point it out, I go, great. I'm glad that you see that. But this is what I'm living up to. Yeah. And based on this, I had a phenomenal day.
Yeah.
My wife and I got to watch a TV show. The kids got to be picked up by their dad. I got to watch their games. The house is taken care of and the handy stuff. That's my peace place.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, me on a stage serves you guys.
Yeah.
But doesn't serve my world.
Yeah.
I love what I get to do, but I'm waiting to get home because they love me at home. Yeah. You just like me.
Yeah.
And so that for me, when I set that scale for myself, I don't need to be the guy in every single thing and write a million books. It's not my desire. Yeah. And I battled that for a while.
Yeah.
I look at my colleagues and go, man, I don't got 1 million followers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't got what they going on. And then I realized, man, some of them aren't even as happy as I thought they should be or would be.
Yeah.
I'm in a great, peaceful place. And then when I hear them saying that you could be doing this, I go, yeah, if some part of you is trying to justify that I shouldn't be as peaceful I am, I should be doing X, Y, and Z because you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm also leery about asking people for advice because they'll give you the advice that helped them. They never give you the preface of, hey, it worked for me. It might not work for you.
Right.
But here's what I would do.
Yeah.
And so these little dynamics of my life allow me to be in a really good, peaceful place daily because I go, I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
As long as my wife's happy, kids know dad, they're happy too, I'm golden.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, again, just another awesome way of just looking at it hey, what did I get done today that I said I would do? I did it. Therefore, I have my integrity in place, and it's not the focus of what didn't I do. Yeah. It's I got done what I needed to do. And then you just show up day in and day out.
Yeah. And I still grit though. Don't get me twisted. I still work. I have a super regimented schedule. So when I work, I'm getting down.
Yeah.
So I do end the day going I'm proud of the work I did.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do work beyond 2:45 because now I'm taking from my kids.
Yeah.
But you give me those windows of time. I'm ruthless with the time, man. I don't adjust. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it allows me to get so much done so I can actually completely turn off and be with the family and not be stressed off stuff. It's a good little rhythm I got.
One of the final things I want to ask you is because, again, as a successful individual and one that has your ego in check, you're obviously an individual that I can feel comfortable with asking the question is, what's that area of improvement for you right now? Where's that place that, or that thing that you're working on right now that you don't have that you're this is what I'm really focused on?
2 things. One is I love my kids to death, but I don't believe that I am parenting my youngest son the level or the way he needs it.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I'm not trying to get there, but I'm trying to find a way to get him where he says he wants to go. Because I don't have any dog in the race from playing in college football and NFL, but he wants to be a Division I athlete. He has all the tangibles you can imagine, physical speak. He has all the different things you need physically, but the mind's not there. And I go, my job as a dad is to get him where he wants to go. But he's not the kid that embraces it. He battles it. And I think at times he doesn't understand that I just want you to have what you want. And my job as a dad to lay out what that looks like if I've done it, which I have. So I'm trying to find this balance and dance where I give him enough of the soft that he needs without too much of it, and enough of the hard that he needs without too much of it. And that I'm navigating that, bro. It seems like daily with this guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he doesn't realize that I love him. I just think that he's got an inset conversation that I can't break into, and I may not be the person to do it. So I'm just trying to find ways to solve that if I can. I don't know if it's a solving thing. I don't know if it's a now and he'll get it later, but I do know that time spent is the best gift I can give him. And so I'm trying to get better with how I spend the time.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's an interesting thing. I'm a jovial human at my core, right? But the jovial human did not build my life. The dog did. The football player built that part of it. The business owner, while I'm here and I'm in a jovial space, I'm also the guy, I'm a dad who could be having fun. The moment that's my kid step out, I'm dad. And I can get there within an instant, right? Same in work. I look at somebody who comes in and does something funny for the business, and I will fire you quick because I'm not going to let you poison the rest of my team. I'm not going to let you damage the clients I get to serve because they have entrusted us with their money to help in their life. And we're going to show up for them, right? Yeah. So if you don't do this, so I can be cutthroat in that space. But the problem that I have found is that guy who has helped my life hasn't been present to help everybody else that I serve. Meaning, I am battling with the truth, which is I got to be the a-hole that people need that exists in me so that they can get the help and move out of their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the dance is difficult because no one likes to not be liked.
Yep.
Everyone wants to be appreciated and liked. And I'm reading this book right now called I Am Leader. And it's a good concept. And it talks about Alexander the Great. Yeah. And what he says is, you know, he walks in, he's a big conqueror. He walks in his tent where he'd conquered a king and he found her mom. And the mom is talking to this guy, tall stature, you know, and there's another guy like next to him had like a limp and was kind of like, you know, crippled a little bit. And she's addressing this tall, strong man, doesn't realize that that's not Alexander. It's the guy with the cripple. When she finds out, she's mortified. She's pleading her case. I'm so sorry. And he goes, hey, it's okay. He's not Alexander. I'm also not Alexander. Alexander's a character. In order for him to overcome what he had to overcome and to be able to lead the world and like literally go out there and just take from people, a character had to exist that could not only do that, but also lead the men and women who were going to go support him in his conquering ways, right? And so I say that to go, there's a certain part of me that the character is not one I would create out of nowhere. It's one I would let loose.
Yeah. And
I know that when I let that guy loose for dark work, which is needed, there are going to be a lot of people who don't like me. And I've always said this, but I'm going to actually have to live it very soon, which is if someone doesn't know you enough to hate you, they'll never know you enough to love you.
Interesting.
They've got to know the depths of you, say, go, this person is not my person. But in doing that, someone goes, but they're mine. And so that's the thing I battle that I have to work on because I'm a jovial, nice person.
Yeah.
Right. And so when people say, I got a problem with this, my heart wants to go to the empathetic side.
Mm-hmm.
But I can empathize with you, but also go, I feel you, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And tell you what you need to hear and how you need to hear it. And so there's a lot of things that are said around my household that they're not rude or disrespectful to anybody, but they're very transparent. They're very direct. And if people were to see that, there's a good base that would go, oh, you're crazy, you're mean. And a good base that would go, man, that's right. I need that.
Yeah.
I got to bring that guy out. And I'm borderline, I'm apprehensive to do so.
Yeah.
But here's what gets me to a certain point of realizing I'm not going to stop it, which is there's a certain level of life I've gotten to, a certain experience I've had, same as you, that in the experiences I've been granted like rough seas that taught me how to sail.
Mm-hmm.
And so in doing so, I was given situations I came out of that gives me different information about life that many people don't have, and they're stuck in places I used to be. And it was a gift to me to have the problems. My duty is to then share it.
Yeah.
And so I have to go out into the world and go, regardless of how I feel, we talked about earlier, meet the person you're going to meet at your deathbed. I could call it your deathbed moment.
Yeah. The
last person you ever want to meet is the person you could have been. Yeah. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
So my battle is getting that guy out of the gates and letting him ride, and then just handling the comments, man.
Yep.
Handling the feedback, handling that, and just going like, I got to do it. And you may not like me and it may piss you off. It might piss some of my team off, to be quite honest. I know. But there are viewpoints that I hold that are dear to my values and principles that are not going to be accepted by the majority, and that's okay. But in doing so, if I'm able to show up and serve the people that God has me prepared to serve, the way that he's put me through stuff to serve them, I have to get out of my own way to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you would call it I would say maybe it's potentially the alter ego, it's that other version.
Yeah, it could be.
Like, I mean, again, however you characterize it, I feel like I'm in a similar boat right now. I've always been a people pleaser, and I've always wanted to just find ways to divert away from any type of adversity if it hits, or if there's chaos amongst individuals. I'm like, how do I diffuse it? But I would do it at, sometimes at my own detriment, where it's like, hey, somebody did, disrespected me, and I just tried to find a way to like quell it. And now it's to the place where I'm like, no, wait, I need to just put my foot down, right? Because what happens when you're wishy-washy anyways is, or if you're just like avoiding everything, it's like, your people see you close to you and go, well, Clayton probably wouldn't tell it like it is because he just wants to avoid conflict, right? Yeah. So now they're wondering like, will he actually be real with me when the time comes or not? So when you put your foot down and you say, this is the way things are, they know, they're like, hey, when Clayton comes in, if he's got a problem with something, he's going to let it, he's going to voice it. And that's where I also feel like I'm working on right now as I go through therapy, is like, hey, I need to start have more respect for myself, because I feel, that I'm receiving disrespect, because I'm trying to not be the mean guy, the bad guy, when the reality is like, what's really bad. Sometimes people need that, they need the repercussions, right? Like, because that's how they're going to be taught. Otherwise, you're just going to let them be able to wipe their hands and get off scot-free. And that's what most people allow them to do. So they continue to do it, right?
They do.
Sometimes
they don't change.
You got to get, that
you got to get them real.
And get
I tell people, they say it's tough love. I go, it's not tough love, it's real love. If I love you enough to tell you the truth, which is something you're not going to like, that means I care enough about what your outcome is.
Yep.
That's why, like for my son, it's why I'm hard on you, man.
Yeah.
I'm not hard on you because I want to see you sweat.
Mhm.
I'm hard on you because I want to see you be the most amazing human you can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in doing so, I got to tell you these things. When you're not on time or you show up later, you don't do that. I'm not trying to get mad at you. I don't want to have that.
Yeah.
But if I don't adjust and push you, it's going to be troublesome for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's getting people out of their own way. And you don't do that by being nice.
Yep. Yeah. Anthony, this was absolutely incredible. I really just appreciate all the insight that you provided today. I mean, again, I know there'll be many more conversations down the road, and it'll be awesome to watch your continued growth.
Same, man.
And I'm just grateful for the conversation. So for those that either listened or watched today, what is the best way for these individuals to continue tracking your journey?
Yeah, if you go to @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram, pretty straightforward. Just like everything's pretty much there.
Yeah.
Depending upon when this goes live, darkwork.com will be the place to find everything. And we have what's called a dark work assessment. We had a PhD create this cool assessment that gives me an idea and you an idea of what identity you're operating in and what you have to do to shift to your Dominator's identity.
Sounds exciting, man. And I might have to dive into that myself. It sounds like there's a lot of just, again, knowledge, and I'm so grateful that you came by today. So
yeah, thanks for having me. Seriously.
Thank you so much.